So I've got one outdoor light, but I want three. I've got one up here on the side of this garage, but I want to add two more. How do I do that? Well, that's what you're going to find out in this video using one of these, a QuickWire splitter. And stick around, because the best bit is by the end of this video all of you are going to be able to do this job yourself. So the first thing we need to do is take a look at the cable that goes through the wall to our existing outside light. Now that's this cable just here. Now before we do any of this, what we need to do is isolate the power to this circuit so that we can be sure it's safe to work on. To do that, go to your consumer unit, isolate the relevant circuit and use a voltage tester and proven unit to make sure that there's no power going to that circuit. Now if you're not confident or competent carrying out basic electrical work, make sure you give an electrician a call. So now we've got the safety bit out of the way, we're sure we're safe to work on this circuit. This is a QuickWire four-way splitter, and that's what we're going to be using to take the power to our existing outdoor light, but also the two lights at the front of the garage. Find the cable that feeds your existing outside light and then make a mark and cut the cable. So our cable's cut before our first light. Now if we take a look at the QuickWire splitter, it tells us that we need to start by stripping back our cable 20 to 22 millimeters to wire it into the connector. And handily on the QuickWire wire strippers there's a mark that tells us exactly where that 22 millimeters is. So we'll take one end of the cable that we just cut, we'll make sure the cable's in line with the mark on the wire strippers, and we've stripped back precisely 22 mil. And now we need to strip back 15 mil of the conductors. Now you don't need to apply any earth sleeving or separate the cables in any way. Now we need to do that for the other end of the cable that comes from the switch. You quite simply push the cable into the connectors and it'll click just like that once they're fully home. So already we've got our feed coming from the switch and our existing light. So essentially we've got what we started with. But what we now have is two extra ports to take the power to our new lights. Now before we run any cable, what we want to do is choose a position for the new light. So I want one on this pillar, this side of the garage, and one on the other side. So I'm just marking out where I want my light to be. I want it to be in the center of this pillar here. So it's a 600 mil pillar. So I'm going to put my mark at 300 mil, and we're going to go 600 mil down from the soffit on both sides of the garage door. When I stand back and look at the property, I want the lights to be dead level. So I've made a mark, and that's where I'm going to drill through for my cable. So we know our light position, and we're going to drill through the mortar. It's better to drill through the mortar than it is through the brick, and we're going to drill through there to feed the new cable through. Now before you go drilling through, it's worth checking the other side of the brick wall. In this case, this cable here going to this socket was exactly where the drill bit was going to pass through. So I've had to take the clips out and just move that out of the way for now, but it is important to check because you don't want to go hitting anything. So we've got our mark. We now need an SDS drill, and I'm using an 8mm SDS bit, which is long enough to pass through this wall. We're going to put a bigger one through, but the 8mm is good because it reduces the chance of blowing the brick. If you go straight through with a bigger drill bit, there is a chance you're going to do more damage the other side. Keep the drill bit angled up very slightly, not too much, and pass through the wall. Now you've got that 8mm bit all the way through, you can follow it through with something like a 12mm SDS bit just to make that hole a little bit bigger. And by drilling through the mortar you don't get too much damage to the wall the other side. And luckily, if you look at all these mortar joints, the one that I passed through on is probably about 5mm, the rest are about 15, in some cases much bigger, like that one there. So I got a bit unlucky. If that hadn't have been such a small mortar joint, there wouldn't have been any blowout. But there you go, you win some, you lose some. So now you need some 1.5 or 1mm twin and earth cable. For this job it doesn't matter, use either one of those. Pop the cable through the hole that we just drilled. Should go through nice and easy. If it doesn't go through easy and it snags up, you can grab a cable rod or anything really thin, pass that through, tape the cable to it and pull it through from the other side. Before I do that, if you're not a subscriber, make sure you hit subscribe because you don't want to miss out on all the videos I've got to come, and hit like for me because that helps the video to reach and help more people like you on YouTube. Now you need to pull enough cable through to run all the way back to that QuickWire splitter that we put in at the other side of the garage. Now using some cable clips, you can clip your cable along the mortar joint just like that and run it all the way back to the QuickWire splitter that you can see we put in the corner of the garage over there. If it's easier, you can clip the cable to joists instead. So I've clipped the cables around the garage for both of the extra lights. What I'm going to do now is just link my cable into the last slot on the QuickWire splitter, and once I've done that, we will have a feed to all three of our lights. If you've got more than 3 lights, you can use 2 of these splitters and just link them together, and you can feed more lights. It's too bright out here now to see the camera to actually see if you can see me. All I need to do now is fit my outside light and wire up the other ends of the cable. Now the other way to connect multiple outside lights is to daisy chain them, but the QuickWire splitter is a better way of doing it in my opinion for a couple of reasons. The first one is you don't have to fumble around trying to get 2 lots of wires into what are normally really tiny little outside light boxes. That can be a little bit fiddly, and if you're running outside lights in multiple directions, you don't want to keep coming back on yourself. So the QuickWire splitter is my favourite way of adding additional outside lights. It just adds that bit of versatility, and hence the name, it's quick. So if you like the QuickWire splitter and any of their other easy to use products, check out the link in the description below where you can find QuickWire. I've popped a little level on there and I'm just going to mark the position onto the brickwork for my outside light. Now I've got a 6mm drill bit and I'm just going to drill on those marks. I'll pop a couple of plugs in the holes. Now with my wire strippers, I am just going to strip that wire back to reveal the conductors inside. Silicon sealant, I'm just going to pop some of that in the hole. Only a little bit, just stops any water tracking back should it try to. Now we're going to attach this back plate to the wall. A lot of these are going to differ depending on what type of light you've got, but a setup like this is quite common, so I'm just going to screw that to the wall now. I'll trim my conductors a bit shorter because they're a little bit long at the moment. We don't want too much length on these because we'll struggle to get it into the box. Now use some wire strippers to strip back the conductors to reveal the copper inside, and then just turn the copper wire back on itself to double it up. And then pop a bit of green and yellow earth sleeving on the earth wire. Now most outside lights are going to have a connector block like this. You're going to have L for live, N for neutral, and the earth symbol for your CPC or earth. On the new wiring colours, that's going to be brown for live, blue for neutral, and yellow and green for the CPC or earth. Make sure you wire this correctly. I'm going to put a chart on the screen that'll cover the old wiring colours as well. So what we're going to do now is connect this up. We'll pop the brown wire in the live terminal. The bare sleeved wire goes into the earth, and the blue wire is your neutral, and that goes into the neutral terminal. Give them all a little tug to check for proper contact, and then I'm going to pop a little bit of silicon sealant just in the hole in that back box there so that no water can find its way inside the box. And then I'll organise the cables, the neater the better, and push the light back onto the box. And the trickiest bit with a lot of these outside lights is actually getting the wiring and the connector to go into the back of the light, which is why I prefer using the splitter method rather than daisy chaining, because there's less wires in the back of the light for you to try and fight against when you're pushing the light back to the plate. And there we go, that is the screws done up nice and tight, and we have a new outside light. And what we can do now is go and turn the power back on and give these a test. 1, 2 new outdoor lights plus the one around the other side, and that is how you install additional outside lights to your home. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, hit one of these because there's much more to learn, and I'll see you guys in the next one.